Hey folks, we are recording at the Injective Policy Summit in Washington, D.C., and joining me is Anthony Howell, who is the overseas representative for the Government of Bermuda. He's also the director of the Washington, D.C. office. Anthony, great to have you.
Thank you so much, Tony, for having me here today. It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, Anthony, we've met quite a few times over the years at these different crypto policy summits and so forth. So it's good to see you.
Yeah, we have. We've just never been able to pin down a podcast. So I'm very glad you took the time out to get me on here today. So I'm very appreciative.
Well, I'm more excited because I followed what what Bermuda has been doing over the years with approaching Web3, taking the economy on chain, and much, much more. It's a plethora of initiatives you guys have going on. But let's start quickly with your background and what you do and how'd you make your way into this Web3 industry.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yes, as you mentioned, Bermuda is doing a lot, and I think that kind of is juxtaposed to my background and why I'm in this position I am. My background is in politics, law. I have a very background from multiple different universities. I've been in the tech space for probably about going on maybe 6 years now, so I do have the expertise there. Got some certificates in that as well, and really it's just been a fascinating journey from my standpoint because I entered this office back in 2022, and this was the initiative of pushing the directive for digital asset incorporation into Bermuda, with the legislation being written just a few years before that, and really seeing the transformation in the United States and Bermuda's being so close as a jurisdiction to the U.S., kind of being integrated into their own system a little bit in terms of those conversations and dialogue. So it's been a very interesting journey.
Oh, absolutely. The world is moving so fast towards technology with AI, blockchain, crypto, robotics, and all these things. A brand new world.
Always a brand new world. And one thing I've learned is that technology doesn't stop for anybody. It's kind of like a clock.
Right. It's inevitable. Right. So tell us about Bermuda's different initiatives around Web3 and what you guys are working on.
Bermuda's been a leader in Web3. I think is one of the first jurisdictions to really have legislation in place for the Digital Asset and Business Act. DABA was put forward in 2017 and enacted into law in 2018. We had the Digital Asset and Issuance Act that came right behind that as well. And in that space, it's allowed us to really become the leader that most countries almost aspire to be. It's allowed us to really get that foothold. We've engaged with different jurisdictions. We've had, shared reciprocity to basically indicate what worked for us. We really see that the benefit of it is a lot of companies saying, hey, we need that clarity. We need that jurisdiction that has great regulatory spacing and great legislation in place. And it's a great jurisdiction to operate out of. And so we've seen a massive growth of companies have interest in Bermuda and come to our shores. And Web3, we've done so much in that space. I mean, it's easier to list things we haven't done than to list things we have done.
That's incredible. And you guys were so early to passing crypto legislation. You mentioned it was put forth in 2017, passed in 2018. I mean, that's almost unheard of,
yes.
Right? It's so early because this asset class was still so young, a baby.
Yeah, it was. And I think that kind of really plays to Bermuda's innovation and how it styles itself. We do, as a small jurisdiction, our main industry is, international corporate business. Insurance, reinsurance is a big proponent of that, international finance. And so we have to be very innovative because we don't have oil, we don't have gold.
Sure.
So we have to be on top and very in front of what the new wave of technology looks like. And that's what we saw was coming down the pipeline, and that's why DABA was enacted, and we've seen the success from that.
So let's double click into some of the initiatives. There's digital identity, there's AI agents, and much more. What can you tell us there?
Oh, yeah, sure. So digital identity is a very interesting one. I had the chance to sit on one of the working groups and be on one of the boards that were looking into the development of it. And the Bermuda Monetary Authority, that's our regulator and one of the best regulators in the world, they're put some proposals going forward to seeing what new acts can go forward. Currently, the one they're talking about right now is called DISPA. It's the Digital Identity Service Provider Act, and that's trying to create a set standard in Bermuda globally on what that's going to look like for the different providers to have the security with the credentials when it comes to identity. So it's something that it hasn't been put forward yet, but this is something that the BMA is looking into. DABA has the whole presence when it comes to DAOs. So we do have DAOs that are present on the island. And of course, the BMA does keep supervision over it to see exactly what's going to work, what doesn't work. That way that we have clarity going forward and we can see, make sure there's no issues. Because again, they're a responsible regulator.
Right. So what you guys are doing could be certainly be a model for other islands, countries. You're advising the U.S. in certain ways. Tell us about how you're working with the agencies and politicians here.
Sure. So advising is a bit of a strong word. We're just kind
Okay.
of more or less sharing what
Okay.
works for us. But I mean, we're always open to those conversations. Our premier is very forward in this area. He has flown out here. I've supported him when he comes to DC to meet with different politicians, different persons in the different agencies. We've met with persons from SEC and FINRA and U.S. Treasury. And again, it's more or less to share what does work, because we want to make sure that a good ecosystem in the U.S. is a good ecosystem for Bermuda, because any hiccups in any jurisdiction that you look at can impact the industry in a negative. And we, as an island nation that depends on these kind of safeguards, we don't want to see anyone fail. I mean, the U.S. is our biggest trade partner. We trade $1 billion a year in trade with them, and we have a very long-standing relationship with the U.S. So we're always here for them. We have worked with different commission groups. We'd work with one out of Wyoming. They're doing the stable tokenization out there. So we're here in a support capacity to share our experience, to share what works for us, and we're always open to those conversations and dialogues.
That's really great to hear. And the collaboration and alignment between different countries is so important, to your point, for the growth of the asset class, the ecosystem. And I just read, I think it was yesterday or the day before, US and the UK are trying to figure out alignment on tokenization rules and things like that. So that needs to happen globally for this thing to all grow. And
It has to.
Yeah.
It can't be compartmentalized. And that's one thing that we're looking at. So we want to make sure. And the other thing I will notice, that every jurisdiction is different. So what will work for our jurisdiction is going to be not transferable 100% to another. Of course, the frameworks will work, but there's always going to be the little nuances, because some jurisdictions have multiple U.S. has multiple regulators. You've seen like the UAE has 2, Bermuda has 1. So it's going to be those slight differences,
Nuances, differences,
little
yeah.
differences, but
Yeah.
overall we can come together to create a universal approach that's going to be best for the industry.
Oh, absolutely. Now, one of the great things you guys offer is a sandbox where businesses can come get licenses. Tell us about that.
Yes, actually, yeah. So we do have a sandbox. So a business that comes to Bermuda, they can get a license. Usually, there's 3 licenses, and usually depends on what type of company, the size of the company, and the product that they offer, what stage of development it's at. If it's a brand new, innovative idea, which we encourage those that have the new, innovative, test model that they want to kind of put into market, but they haven't worked the kinks out yet. They want a place to operate out of. Bermuda's a great place for it. They'll come and get a T license. If it's more developed but not large in scale, they'll get a modified license. And of course, if it's a massive company that already has service providers, already has clientele, customers, and does great revenue, they can get a full license. But of course, and those classes are Class F, Class M, Class T, for full, moderate, and test. And of course, the BMA is the one that decides that. So once you go through the process, they'll make the declaration on which class is going to be appropriate for your company.
Now, with this technology on the rise, it's still new to a lot of people, right? People are trying to learn about it. How are you educating both the businesses and people? And are you seeing, let's say, the younger generation who are more tech savvy, gravitating towards it?
Absolutely. I love my mother, but she can't work a phone right now, so she's not keen on learning it. But surprisingly enough, it's not just the younger generation. It is a lot of actually the middle generation too, who they see that this is the new wave that's coming through, and they don't want to be left behind. So the young generation are very quick to adapt, very quick to run with it, because it's something they're growing up with. And the generation a little bit older than them, they see that this is the pathway forward. They want to make sure they're not left behind and lost in the weeds. And so Bermuda is doing very much different approaches. We have technical workshops, and we have different organizations that are part of this, like the Near Foundation and a few other ones. I remember just previously in May, we had the Digital Finance Forum. We actually saw, different workshops and different groups and organizations. There were like 30 vendors that were doing training there. We had like over 500 participants that were there, and they even dropped, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of tokens that were shared among the attendees. And so this is just, some of the areas in which there is a way to make sure that we do see a continued educational push, so that the island itself doesn't get left behind.
So education is so important for everyday use, for people to understand the technology, the benefits, and much more. So it's great to hear that you're educating folks in Bermuda, and I'm sure they're going to get a lot of benefit from that.
No, absolutely, and we do try to push that, and the tertiary education as well. And there's also courses and classes that we always encourage people to take. And and I mean, there's external programs that look to come to Bermuda as well to set up educational workshops and things of that nature. So always open to those collaborations and those conversations too.
So with the direction that Bermuda is heading in addition to the United States, UK, EU, and other countries and jurisdictions, that they're embracing this technology, they're putting currency on the blockchain, they're putting assets on the chain, that, over time, this is how the world's going to function with everything digitized.
Yes, and that's actually a great segue, and it goes into a segue that our premier has said in Davos of going on chain and getting the island on chain. What that looks like right now, it's a work in progress. We have the people that are looking into how that's gonna, because again, it is a large ask. Bermuda's a small jurisdiction, so it's a little bit probably easier sell point on that. But we want to make sure that it's 100% right, it's done correctly. There is good buy-in, and that we see the transformation that's going to take shape. And to that point, we are getting to the point where we are seeing digitization come into full effect in many different regards globally. And of course, we want Bermuda to be one of the spearheads in that conversation.
Well, I have to come down to Bermuda and check out what you guys got going on, because you're leading in many ways. And I can imagine Bermuda might have humanoid robots ahead of other countries, maybe.
Oh man, well, I mean, that is something. That's one thing that we don't have a lot of is robotics, to be very honest. But it's very, as long as the Bermuda jobs are protected.
Yeah,
we want to give them up. But again, we want to be an innovation hub. And if people want to come down to test products, to test robotics, to test AI, to test AI agents, we're looking at every way in which that we can stay at the forefront and be the leader that we've established. We've been a leader in the reinsurance and insurance industry, in finance, digital finance now. And so we are very much appreciative that we are seen in that lens, because it is a small jurisdiction and people can overlook it. But when you see what we're capable of, you understand that this is an amazing area, an amazing hub to operate out of. And that's why we have the success that we have. And that's why a lot of people do gravitate towards our islands. I mean, we love to have you come down to see for yourself. Like I said, we have the Digital Finance Forum that takes place usually in May. Just took place last year and the year before. Hopefully we have it again next year. And of course, always looking for any opportunity to have other conferences and events on the island.
I love it. And you guys are very forward looking. And yeah, I will definitely have to make a way down and test all these things out. And but again, love what you guys are doing. And thank you so much, Anthony, for taking the time.
Tony, thank you so much for having me on here today. I greatly appreciate it.
This episode is brought to you by Fortis X. Guys, let's be honest, the crypto market has been moving sideways for a while now. A lot of people are just sitting on their coins, waiting for the next big move. But while you're waiting, your crypto is just sitting in your wallet doing absolutely nothing. That's why I want to mention one of my longtime partners, Fortis X. Instead of just letting your assets sit idle, you can put supported cryptocurrencies into Fortis X liquidity pools and earn daily rewards while still keeping the flexibility to withdraw whenever you want. One of the reasons I've continued working with them is because they keep delivering. The team is public. They've successfully completed Cyberscope team verification, KYC, passed independent security audits, and the platform has been building consistently for years. They focus on long-term growth, transparency, and security rather than hype. In a market like this, it makes far more sense to have your crypto working for you instead of letting it sit idle in your wallet. I've worked with Fortis X for a long time, and if you're planning to hold your crypto anyway, I genuinely think it's one of the smartest ways to put those assets to work. And folks, I know security is very important to all of us as we hold our crypto assets, and they are fully audited by CertiK, and they are SEC registered and much more. So you got to check out Fortis X. Go to fortisx.fi/x/thinkingcrypto. Link will be in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't as yet. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please follow and leave a 5-star rating. Thank you so much.